Welcome to Florida Education News. My name is Dr. Tony Arza, and today I'm sitting down with a candidate for Orange County Public Schools Board Chair, Angie Gallo. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dr. Arza.
So look, it's election season in Florida, and a lot of people are getting ready to go out and vote. Obviously, you have absentee ballots that are dropping soon, and people are going to have to make important decisions about the future of education in Florida. And we wanted to sit down and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, get a sense of who you are and what you stand for. Could you kind of share a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure, I'd love to. So I, first and foremost, am a mom of two beautiful girls. One of them is a teacher. The other one does nonprofit work in Tallahassee. I've been married to my husband for 32 years. We raised both of our kids in Central Florida in the Orlando area near UCF. And I've just been in the education space and advocating for education for probably about 17 plus years. I did a lot of work up in Tallahassee, advocating for the recess bill, which we got passed, advocating for Baker Act reform, which I was also successful in getting passed. So I look at myself as a little bit of an education policy wonk. Like I like getting into the nitty gritty and really trying to figure out how we can make this state the best state for education for our students.
And you're obviously running for re-election, kind of, is a different seat, but you've been on the board for a while. What work do you feel like is still left to do? What motivated you to run again and to run for board chair?
That's a great question. So yeah, I was first elected in 2018. I was barely elected before COVID hit. And since my election, I feel like it's just been one hit after another. And while that's been difficult to try to navigate those waters and really keep students at the forefront and centered on student academic achievement and student wellness. I feel like all of that has kind of prepared me for this next journey, right? Like right now, we're in some really challenging times. So really my impetus for running was looking at the work that still needs to be done. We're working on affordable housing for our teachers. We now have land that we're not going to use due to declining enrollment that we could utilize for affordable housing, not just for teachers, but for first responders. We're looking at really innovative approaches within our schools, like doing micro schools, a school within a school. I would love to see a school for dyslexia within a school. I would love to see more magnets. We're looking at a sports-related magnet. Anything that is innovative that will get students to come back to Orange County Public Schools, I think is going to be my major focus for this upcoming if I'm lucky enough, the voters put me in as chair, because I really do think that education shouldn't look like it did in the 1950s, and too often you walk into a classroom and it's just that, right? Other than the technology that surrounds you, it still looks, and we're still teaching like we did in the 1950s. And children don't learn that way. Like they don't want to be in a school for 7.5 hours a day. They really want the flexibility to do sports, to do theater, to do other things that are their passion and still get a high quality education. And I think that we need to innovate to meet children where they are, and meeting them where they are currently is vastly different than even in 2018 when I said that same thing, like I was running because we need to meet children where they are. Then it looked like in the classroom, in the learning, how they're learning, differentiated learning. It looked at all those components, and today it really looks like what do they need to succeed? What kind of environment can we provide so that they could thrive and be engaged in school and want to be in school? So I'm kind of focused on, teacher retention, because we need to pay our teachers more, really look at those innovative approaches that will bring kids back. And we also need to look at student outcomes, because I think we all know what COVID did to our academics and our learning. And while we've made great progress in Orange County, we still have work to do, and we need to ensure that we're offering the best high quality education we can do for our students, and that's going to be making some hard choices, some choices that we've already made around programs that we work that I just didn't believe was a good fit for our students. Big believer that learning should be hard, and I think sometimes we make it too easy for them to learn, and that causes the lack of engagement as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of different things that are happening.
A lot of different things.
So very busy.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges.
And how do you think that a lot of people don't know necessarily what a school board does, what role it plays, and how it impacts their community? Could you kind of share a little bit, what role does a board member play in their local community, and how do you hope to impact the community as a board chair?
So I think the biggest role that I play in my community, I like to think that I'm like the bridge that bridges the community to the board. I'm the one out in the community talking to my constituents at my schools, hosting town halls, meeting with constituents for coffee just to talk about what's on their mind. So I'm kind of like the bridge between the community and the board. When I'm at the dais, my job is to set policy. So I set the policy that then the superintendent implements through the operation. So I have really one job, to create good policy that creates good outcomes for a high quality education, because at the end of the day, my only job really is to educate students. It's that simple. My job is to educate students, and I need to do it well, and I need to ensure that kids are ready, market ready, when they leave our schools, whether they're going to college, they're going into the workforce, they're going to do some career pathways, some technical education, whatever plans they have, or even in the military, that they're ready and they have the skills they need to succeed, and to be a good citizen in our community and a productive citizen as well.
Yeah, and speaking of choices for kids, and before you mentioned how much the landscape is changing.
Absolutely.
Universal choice is the law in Florida, and more parents are exercising their right to choose. Some districts, some board members have been very vocal against that. I'm just curious, where do you stand on the issue of choice? How do you hope to support or oppose choice in Orange County?
So I look at choice this way. Florida has fully embraced school choice in our state. And with that choice does come some responsibility. So in my mind, there should be absolutely 3 absolute non-negotiables when we look at an educational standard of care, which means no matter where that child goes, if they're going to a public, a private, or choosing a homeschool type setting, there should be absolutely 3 non-negotiables. And that is, a student should be safe, a student should absolutely be learning, and the taxpayer dollars need to be accountable. So as long as we can meet those 3 beliefs that I have that are non-negotiable in my mind, I'm fine with choice. I don't have a big issue with choice. I understand that the choice is declining my enrollment. It's not the only reason. I mean, we have lower birth rates. The immigration policies have created an atmosphere where kids are afraid to come to school. Their parents don't want them to come to school. So there's a lot of things happening around public schools, but I 100% believe that I can compete, which is why we need to be innovative, which is why we've got to change what we're doing, because we're clearly seeing that the choice parents are making aren't with OCPS. So how do we get them back? How do we become better? How do we do better to get those students back? Because I 100% believe that we are still the best choice, and we are the choice that 70% of the parents choose in Orange County. So I'm very proud of that statistics, but as long as we can meet those non-negotiables, then I support a parent's right to choose.
Yeah, I know, and what I'm hearing you say is first that you support choice, but you want some kind of accountability, and you mentioned the 3 things that you mentioned. And you also mentioned towards the end, obviously it's created a competitive environment, and there is declining enrollment, not only in Orange County, but throughout Florida and districts. Could you kind of share a little bit of, what do you think parents are looking for? Because parents are choosing to come out of traditional public schools or traditional environments overall, right? And why do you think that that's happening? And as a board member, how do you hope to win those parents back and convince them that either, traditional public schools or charter public schools that obviously you're over are the best option for the parents?
I think that we can accomplish that in a number of ways. It's hard to compete when you're giving a parent $8,000 per student to homeschool their student. Like, I can't give them $8,000 and bring them back to school because I need that money to fund my operations. But I think the biggest thing that I believe that parents are craving is truly the flexibility. Their kids want the flexibility, they want the flexibility, and we got to look at what that flexibility looks like. I know that safety is a big concern for parents. Unfortunately, public schools are under kind of a microscope with that safety, and we have people threatening us all the time, and that can be very scary for parents. So just help educating them that I believe that our schools are one of the safest brick and mortar in the state. Like, if you go to school, I believe that you're safer there than you are almost anywhere else. I think that the state's done a really good job of making sure that we're a safe environment. So we need to educate parents on how safe we are, because that can be kind of intimidating, and we need to be more flexible. Parents want choice, And while we offer a lot of choice within Orange County, we need to do a better job of communicating the choice that we have. And we need to be more flexible in what a school day looks like. As I mentioned earlier, kids just don't want to go to school for 6.5 to 7.5 hours a day, right? So how can we align our program, our schools with the needs of the students so that we can bring them back? And interestingly enough, we're still growing numbers in high school. So what we're finding is in elementary school, especially K1, where those numbers are declining, they tend to come back a little bit in elementary. They leave again in middle school, because who's not afraid of middle school, right? Like that, those are some tough years. And then they want to come back to go to high school, either to take advantage of our ACE program, our IB program, our dual enrollment, our CTE programs, all the great things that we offer that kind of deliver a rounded student and allow them to have a career choice of their liking, whether that's college, military, or through a career pathway. We offer that. So we see them come back for the more traditional settings, for the sports, for all the things that make our schools great, right, that really engage kids. So I think that we need to look at what's working and then kind of fix what's broken. And I'm committed to those innovative approach. I am always throwing stuff out there that like, hey, have we thought about this? Can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do that? And I think that we need that type of growth mindset to get people back into our schools.
Yeah, and something that someone mentioned that I'll share kind of my perspective is just that I think having parents more involved and families more involved,
Absolutely.
everyone believes that having parents more involved is a good thing.
Well, yeah, statistically, it shows us it's one of the leading indicators of student success, right?
Wow.
When a parent is involved and when a parent is engaged and at school, it is a leading indicator of student success. So 100% we need parents engaged.
Yeah. And so, there's also on the ballot with you, there's going to be the referendum. So I'm just curious, in Orange County, could you tell us a little bit about the referendum, what it's meant to support in Orange County?
Sure. So this is a renewal of our 1 mil. I think this is our fourth go around with renewing it. It incorporates about 10% of our budget. So it's a large chunk of our budget, and it goes towards all the things that brings kids into our schools. So arts, drama, theater, athletics, teacher compensation, right? Because we need those high quality teachers. We know, again, another leading trend is in student success rate is the quality of that teacher, right? If you have a high quality teacher, that student's going to be more successful. There's a direct correlation there. And so it does all of those things and really incorporates and brings kids back into our schools to enjoy the things that help them engage and the things that they love about public education. So that 1 mil supports all that. And like I said, it's about 10% of our budget. It's going to equate about $240 million next year. And we employ about 2,000 employees with those dollars. So it's imperative that the voters vote yes on the 1 mil. It's usually the last item on the ballot. And we always say, last on the ballot, first in your heart, vote yes. I understand that we're going to have, it's going to be a little bit trickier with the property tax being on the ballot. So we're really going to have to make sure our message is out there and gets to the voters of Orange County.
Yeah, speaking of taxpayer dollars, most people don't know that school districts have some of the largest budgets in the state,
Oh, yeah.
right? And in Orange County, it's a multi-billion-dollar budget.
7.5.
And, that's a lot of responsibility. And why should the voters trust you with that money? How are you going to earn their trust? How are you going to continue to work for them to make sure that those dollars are, bearing fruit in the community, that they're actually creating good opportunities for the parents and families that are there?
Well, first and foremost, I think that we have gained the trust because this is our fourth go around, and the last time we went through it was overwhelmingly in support of the referendum. But to your point, we have to be transparent. And I've been pushing since I was elected in 2018 to be extremely transparent with those dollars. I would even like to see, and I've asked for a separate line item to be on our budget that shows here's the 1 mil, here's how much money we got, and then what was it spent on, because I think transparency equals trust. So if we're transparent and we're accountable, then we continue to earn the trust of the voters that vote on the 1 mil. So I think transparency is number one. Number two is we've got to use it for things that the community wants, right? So we need to use it for the arts and the athletics and the drama that draws kids into our schools and makes them happy there. And we also have to use it for teacher compensation because our healthcare costs are rising, our teachers are hurting, inflation is going up. They're not really making a livable wage right now, and we need to put a more emphasis on looking at those referendum dollars and seeing how we can use them for teacher pay on a larger scale than we're doing right now, because I think our teachers deserve that. I think they need it, and the only way we retain and recruit high quality teachers is to be able to pay them. And they're the backbone of our community, they're the backbone of our schools, and without good teachers, we don't have good outcomes, and we need to keep that at the forefront of our mind when we're making decisions at the board.
Well, look, thanks so much for sitting down with us, and good luck on your race, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.